on my monster panel, and the clock is ticking. So anyway, I'm going to start. I don't know if we got any viewers. Oh, Gary's in. All right, Gary, how you doing?
I'm fine, Jeff. How are you?
All right. I want to introduce you to Jessica and Michael. They're both authors.
Hello, hello.
Hello, Gary.
Hello. Good to meet Cyberly.
Yes, this is the virtual panel. This is what I do when I go to conferences. And Jessica was on my panel out when we did it in Chicago. And Mike, I don't know, I think Mike escaped. When I was at DragonCon, I didn't have a panel. So this is my my panel here.
Gotcha.
I also am hosting it on Facebook. So I jump between my Facebook page and here in the stream. So as I do each one of these, I'm also aware that I'm introducing it to you and many of our viewers. So this is a really cool platform. Why I use it over the one that everybody else is using, Zoom, is because the free version of StreamYard, you don't have to pay to get over an hour. So like when we do it on Zoom, you have to pay to go over an hour.
Oh, is that right? I see.
The free version is just what do you call it? Is just 45 minutes, and I don't know how many people you can get. I've gotten up to 5 people on here. That's where I, kind of stuck now.
Right.
I did invite a group of Black preppers who came in at the last minute. So if they jump in, then we can see if we can go to 6.
Okay.
So we're the 3.
Is there a link to share the live version of this?
I'm going to share it now on my Facebook page, but the problem I have when I do that is what do you call it? It makes me do a watch party, and then I have to moderate the daggone watch party. So let me send the link to you, Jessica, on Facebook.
Okay.
That's the link. I'll send it to you, Gary, and Michael as well.
Okay. But it'll also be available to just later on to post a link so people can just check it out, right?
Yeah. The thing is, on my, I guess I don't know. I'm gonna take it personal, but computer and my Wi-Fi, it takes the same amount of time to download the video after we do it that it takes for us to tape the video. So if we do an hour, that's how long it's going to take me to download it, and then I just trim it up a little bit, and then I post it on YouTube, and that'll be done tomorrow. So then I will share it with you as soon as I put it up.
Okay.
And when I put it up, I put all of your links. So Michael and Gary, I think you're the only 2 that have to give me links to how people can support you and buy your works.
Okay.
Okay. So that way we have it all up. So let's move to the panel. The survivalist, the Afro survivalist, she will be joining us as soon as she can. But until then, we're going to start the panel. The rules of the panel, or how the panel goes, if you've never, is I ask a question, and then I call out the order of the people that can answer it. So I'll say Michael, Jessica, Gary.
Okay.
And then you'll answer it in that order, and I rotate it. Now, also, since oh shoot, I can't answer. My wife is calling me.
There you go. You better answer.
Right? No, I already took care of that. Right? Hope everybody turn their cell phones off. Actually, I left my cell phone, so I got to get that. So that's the main thing. I'm also a panelist because I'm a writer myself.
There you go.
I will be answering questions as well. So let's roll into it. First round, Michael, Jessica, Gary, quick introduction of yourself and probably, through your works. All right. So Michael, go first.
Well, I'm a writer. I'm based in Greenville, South Carolina. Some of the books I've written were The Blood of Titans, which is a love story set in ancient Africa.
Hmm.
Hour of the Beast, which is a werewolf story, horror, go for the jugular horror. And Houdini versus Rasputin.
Nice.
It's a nice mashup there, historical mashup.
Okay. And Jessica?
Jessica Cage, as my name says down there. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I write stories of fantasy featuring characters of color. That's my tag. I always loved fantasy, paranormal movies and books, and I wanted to see myself portrayed in those storylines. My most recent series, I currently have 25 published titles, but currently I'm working on a post-apocalyptic dystopian storyline about magical beings who were turned into jinns, so they're genies. And they're living on a post-apocalyptic Earth where humans are extinct and magic rules all.
Very nice.
And because of the post-apocalypse, my reading of it has been postponed. I think I got about 100 pages left. So I started with ideas, so I have to get into reading. So yeah, all right. The Afrovivalist is here. So you will introduce yourself after Gary does. Okay.
All right.
A volume check. Say something.
Testing, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me?
Okay. Can we hear? Everybody can hear her, right?
Yeah, you hear her.
Okay, good. All right. So Gary,
All right.
Gary really doesn't need an introduction, but just flatter us. You know, with your introduction.
Yeah, in my own mind.
I already have one.
Oh, very good. Good job, Jeff. Nice work. Thank you, man.
No, dude, I got the comic books and everything. So
You're on point, baby. My name is Gary Phillips. I mostly write crime fiction stories, although I must say, I think as Jessica just mentioned, you know, I was greatly influenced by reruns of the original Twilight Zone as well as the original Outer Limits. So some of my stories, certainly some of my short stories, veer, I don't know so much into horror, but they certainly veer more into sci-fi. And then I'll just say a couple of real quick things. My most recent effort was a graphic novel called The Bebop Barbarians, which came out from Pegasus. And I take the three sort of Black pioneers of comics. Jackie Orms, the first Black woman to have her own comic strip. Matt Baker, who died fairly young from a heart condition, but he was one of the first Black artists working in mainstream comics. And then Ollie Harrington, who a lot of people may not know about, but Ollie Harrington was a very interesting cat, a communist, I might add. And he drew political cartoons for the Daily Worker, and he wound up actually living in what was then East Germany. But he also drew a strip for the Black newspapers called Jive Gray about a Tuskegee Airman, a kind of Black Steve Canyon strip. So I take those three and I sort of use them as prototypes in that graphic novel. And then I have a novel coming out, I guess sometime this summer, because now what with the upheaval in publishing, but it'll be out this summer, where I take Matthew Henson and I reimagine him as a pulp character set in the late 20s during the Harlem Renaissance.
and I really like your work, your comic books, because you do graphic novels, and they're almost like street lit in comic books, even though they're crime stories and they fit in multiple of genres. I like those because you're one of the few people in the lineage of Donald Goins that do serial crime graphic novel type stuff. So I like that as well.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Yes. So the Afrovivalist is not an author. Okay. I got her brochure here. I use it in my series, the Harlem Shake. We met at same time I met Jessica at the WakandaCon in Chicago, and she brings another element to the conversation. So let's hear your introduction. How are you going to introduce yourself there?
Hi there, I'm Afrovivalist, and I have bugged out of the city. The coronavirus has came along, and all the planning that I have been doing over the years, I'm finally using them. I didn't think that time would really come this soon, but I have left the city, and I'm at Asian, where I will stay until this virus has passed. So all my planning and food has paid off. So I am a survivor. Part of me is being able to go out and hunt, fish, gut it, clean it, cook it, and feed it to you. So that's where I'm at the moment, and that's who I am. I am Afrovivalist.
Okay. As you see, I played around with the focus to see if I can do one person at a time when they're talking. So that's my little thing. My introduction is I'm Jeff Carroll. I am a writer, filmmaker, and big idea thinker. You know, I think that's important to kind of say that because big idea thinkers and out of the box thinkers, I think, are the people that are the least crazy right now. We might have already imagined scenarios like this, probably not to the extent of the Afrovivalist, but Vivalist. I got to say that, right? But
thank you.
We all on this panel, at least, and people like us, have thought about the day after tomorrow. And a lot of people that I've talked to, oh my God, what's going to go? And I was like, well, have you speculated about when they start fighting over food? Have you speculated about, you know, not just shortage of gas, but, you know, cities being chaotic? So I'm not a survivalist per se. I'll call myself a survivalist light. I called the Harlem Shake, and that is about a fault line that I worked on top of for 15 years at the Apollo Theater. It runs straight down 125th Street, and nobody knew about it. Few people knew about it. I mean, some Harlem people say they knew, but nobody knew enough to make the building earthquake code, you know? So it felt like it was a disaster waiting to happen. So I had the disaster happen in my book series. And the only people that really survived are survivalists. And I made up a group of survivalists called the Harlem Survivors. They got a big bunker. They got rechargeable plasma guns and rechargeable bikes and kind of everything that I think, you know, would make a story interesting. But, you know, the basic thing is they all have bug out bags. And the people, my stars, were probably as caught off guard as I am, and they never even heard of a bug out bag until the Harlem Shake. So now that we're living in a pre-post apocalypse, right? I just want to run through some questions and talk to you guys. So that's pretty much how this came about. Michael, I'm going to start off with you because I told my wife earlier that I feel comfortable with this panel in the sense that I can say whatever I think of. And I know it's not going to catch Michael, Gary, and Jessica. I don't know. You Afrovivalist, you may be like, well, you're off a little bit, but if you play, she might have some correction. So I'm going to go this way. We're going to go with Mike first. Then I'm going to go with Jessica, then Gary, and the Afrovivalist. And then the second question, I'm going to play with the order again. So the basic question, Michael, you're quarantined, I'm assuming. You're in South Carolina?
Yes, indeed.
So you're quarantined as a thinker, right? How are you doing? And do you think this is the end, right? Do you believe this might be the breakdown? Do you think this is the soft ending of what we're going through, of society as we know it? Whatever you want to call an apocalypse. Do you think this is an apocalypse, and how are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great because we have a big old house. We have a big yard. We have plenty of board games. Now, the only downside is my wife's a physician, and she was treating a patient who was coughing up a storm and subsequently was diagnosed with the COVID-19. So she became quite sick, terrible fever, and she was here in the house. We were then in social isolation from her as well. At least the kids were. I wasn't. I'd already been in bed with her, for about 10 days before, she was really diagnosed. So, but I didn't catch it, and she's bounced back. She's recovered. And in fact, she's been doing telemedicine and is about to return to the hospital on Monday. Really, just as it's predicted that the big wave, the tsunami, is going to hit Greenville. It's going to peak then when she gets back to the hospital. So, the Forsyths, we don't die, we multiply. She's in for round 2 already. So that's what's going on in the Forsyth household. In terms of, is this the end? I don't, honestly, I don't think this is the big one, really, by any stretch of the imagination. My feeling is, really, my prediction is this will kind of peter out toward the end by fall. However, I think there'll be another virus right after that and another virus after that. It's just sort of what we'll get used to, but that's not the big one. Last night, I've been binge watching the old Mission Impossible, and this episode aired 1966. The Mission Impossible team is battling a plot to spread the plague here in the United States. The enemy had a bunch of people who were trained to act like Americans to be infected with this virus, the plague, and sent out all over the country. So we've known that the real danger is something bioengineered. Okay. And I think that our failure to prepare for that, let alone this thing, has been a major failure. That's what we really have to brace ourselves for, a big one. And I think that one's coming down the pike too.
All right. At the end of, after everybody answers a question, I will let anybody has a question for somebody on the panel, that's when you can ask people questions. All right. So Jessica, same question, right? Is this the end? Like New Edition sang, is this the end? And kind of how are you doing? How you're quarantined, I assume?
Yes, we are.
With you?
Huh?
You have some children in the quarantine with you?
I have a child in the quarantine with me.
So you got to do the virtual school?
Yeah, so it's okay for us. We're homebodies. We don't really go. Me and my son are like, he's a little old man and we watch stand-up comedy together. It's not like we're not affected in the way that I see my friends who are like going crazy, like, oh my God, I got to get out the house. It's really just us hanging out. And I mean, he does miss school, obviously his friends and things, but they do virtual learning, just, video chats and stuff like that. So he's getting at least that communication with them, but we're okay. I don't like to go places. I'm like, now I don't have to like cancel stuff. I'm the person who's like, yeah, I'll be there. And then a couple of days before I'm like, what, not really. So I'm okay for the most part. The thing I'm struggling with is that I like to choose not to go places. For someone to tell me I can't is a little bit different. But outside of that, we're good. For the question of, is this the end? I have to agree with Michael. No, I don't believe it is. My hope is that from this, we'll be better prepared for when the end is really, when something that qualifies as being a trigger for the end or for the apocalypse does happen. I think this shows just how under prepared the world is and how much the internet can inflate, the panic. I don't think that it would have been nearly as bad maybe 15 years ago when the internet wasn't as readily available. I've seen so many people posting facts that their cousin, uncle, brother who knows the army, general told them. And I'm like, come on, like, there are people who are going to take that and run with it. So
That's me.
I think it, you know, people don't take the time to research and really understand what's happening. And I think that really is what's contributing to the pandemic right now. So I don't think that this in itself is enough to say it's going to be the start of the end.
All right. So, Gary, you're the big man who did the anthology of conspiracy stories.
But those are conspiracy stories about Obama.
Right. Yeah,
Right.
you never know. Maybe Obama might have had a virus that he had to contend with in one of those stories. I didn't read all of them yet. I do thumb through them. But when it comes to stories and conspiracy theories, right? Sometimes as a writer, I feel like I'm watching the code, like in the Matrix.
Yeah.
You know, so when they come up with, I'm trying to remember who was it? Brown. Somebody's book from the 70s popped up. And do you remember who that was, Jessica?
No, you put me on the spot. My memory is horrible.
No, yeah, but it's a book that they sent around the excerpts from, saying he predicted this. He even had the name Corona, you know.
Oh,
Really?
Nostradamus.
It was who?
Nostradamus?
No, Nostradamus did do a prediction.
That must be it.
But it was another dude in the 90s or the 80s, right?
Oh, I'm sorry. Missed the date. Sorry.
Right. So funny that, you know, when I tell people, I was like, listen, if Harlem has an earthquake, right? I'm the one that predicted it. I just speculated about it. So as writers, we take the real potentials and we speculate about them. If we hit gold, you know, that doesn't mean we are prophets. So anyway, Gary, I'm gonna remove everybody. You got the floor. What do you think about this? How are you doing? And is this?
Hey, you cut out. Jeff, I can't hear you. You said, "How am I doing?" And then
Is this the end?
Is this the end? Oh,
Yeah,
well, no,
same question as everybody.
I think it's both Jessica and Michael said. I don't think this is the end. But look, man, I'm in LA, man. So like, I'm still waiting for the big quake. Speaking of quakes, right? So I know that's going to get me, or I know me wearing a black mask now, because now we're required to, at least in LA, we're required to wear a cloth mask when we go out to the store. I'm sure, you know, I'm an old man, but still I have a little certain size. So I'm sure, you know, me wearing a black mask as I walk into the store, that alone might get me killed, let alone, you know, I'm worried about the virus, man. And even after all this, you know, I still got the LAPD and everything else to contend with. So, you know, but I agree with what folks have said on the real tip in terms of like, funny enough, I mean, because my wife and I for some time have been, you know, getting an earthquake kit together and other things, just because these are the things that are part of our real life. And, you know, I guess even during the so-called Spanish flu of, what was that, 1915, 1918? You could read some of those same edicts that got issued then in terms of, you know, parks were closing, don't congregate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So certainly the case that these kind of cycles, which may be coming closer together, are going to not to be funny about it, but are going to plague us, you know, again and again. And so the point about being prepared is a real thing. Now, having said all that,
Yes.
as a crime fiction writer, I can't help but think about what's the crime fiction story, what's the crime fiction angle I want to tackle once we sort of come through at least this phase of this pandemic, in terms of, like, you know, you already have these snake oil salesmen out here. You have these concierge doctors selling the test for $300-400, whatever the heck they're doing. You know, so everybody's always trying to profit, right? Everybody's got, so greed always rears its ugly head. So then, you know, that just makes me think, well, how do I use that in a story? Because God knows there's going to be a lot of stories coming out post this, and we've even seen already certain books, which were certain novels, which were already had come out several years before about pandemics, and now getting some love and getting reissued and what have you. So all that territory will be covered. So the question for me is always, what's the original niche I can find that I can mine as a writer, as a crime fiction?
I'll just say this. kill some price gougers in there. You know, those guys selling $8 waters.
That's
Get
it.
some of them.
That's right. That's
All right.
it.
All right. So now, Afrovivalist. You've heard from all of the fiction writers, and weekend. What's the deal? How you gave us a little bit. You're already, from the bunker, so we got Wi-Fi, right? Is this the end? Hello?
Not the end. It's the beginning,
Okay.
actually.
Uh-oh.
Are you there? Uh-oh.
Hear me? Yeah,
Can
we
you
can
hear
hear
me?
you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So I
Okay.
said, no, it's not the end. I think this is just the beginning of it. We will have more different types of, and they're saying that this will see this again in, over the winter time.
Right.
We can possibly go into war. We can, we don't know where our president is leading us right now. And it's scary times all the way around, full circle, So I think this is just the beginning. There's more to come after this. Our economy is about to collapse. It's about to explode, actually, because we're just printing money for that. And we've been in a recession, and now we're in the depression. So it's starting, and it's going to explode.
Right. My answers to it. Uh-oh, she popped out. Well, my answers to the question is I'm kind of prepared because I live in Miami, and every year we approach hurricane season, and hurricane preparation is different from tornado prep, different from forest fire prep. It's a unique natural disaster prep that allows you to get a couple of days warning. Hurricanes give you those warnings. So the culture down here is Caribbean, right? And the people from the Caribbean are used to preparing every year. Put your valuables in plastic bags. Make sure they know what they're going to eat when the power goes out. I'm from New Jersey. We had no idea what to eat. We're not prepared for it. So it's like when we get the warning down here, you do your fast food and all of your ramen noodles, your canned tuna, and all of that you save because if the power goes out, you're going to be eating a lot of it. So that's how I am. I'm doing now. Do I think this is the end? Really interesting. Gary, I wrote this little comic book skit, 2-page cartoon where it's Wildin' Out zombie outbreak, right? I took Nick Cannon and his Wildin' Out crew, and he's watching a video where the coronavirus mutated into the carnivorous virus. And they had now everybody that's infected turns into zombies. So yeah, I'm making a joke out of it, and it's a lot of fun. But I do think, like what the Afrovivalist has said, is we are not going to be the same for a while.
Yeah.
I'm not totally Jessica, right? I do go out once a week for the movies, and I do go out to we go to a salad bar or to breakfast with a couple of friends, usually once a week. But I don't club anymore, and I'm not that type of person. But I do like riding my bike and going to the park. And I've seen people fight for gas before a hurricane. And I know that we don't have an explainer in chief, right? So it's like hard not to blame a little bit on White House in terms of what we're going through. You know what I'm saying? Of course, I see the internet as a big factor, and spreading the paranoia. But I'm a sci-fi writer. One of the greatest science fictions was War of the Worlds. You can't make people more paranoid than that. That wasn't even real, and people was going in the bunkers. So we know the power of a good.
That was only when it was on the radio. They didn't when they read it. You know what I mean?
Right. But you know what I'm saying. So we know the power of a good lie. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to be L. Ron Hubbard to make people believe something that's not real. So now, I do think it may get a little bit worse because I don't think we're going to recover as fast as those stimulus checks are going to dictate. I think AMC theaters already said they may go down. I don't know. I had 3 movies coming out. All of them have been pushed back to 21, and I'm just a straight to video dude. I don't even have to worry about theaters. I wonder how we're going to be. I speculate about it. I was going to get a massage coming up next month. My masseuse, I know can't work. And there's just industries that are collapsed, dead because of this. Yeah. So I don't know. But let me ask you, I'm going to skip around because I know I sent some of you other questions. So I'm going to go into this other question. And maybe Gary, you can go first. Afrovivalist, you can go second. Then Michael, and then Jessica, you can close it out. All right. So here's the question. Why is the post-apocalypse so scary? And I'll set it up with a conversation I just had with a friend. I said, how bad do you think it's going to get? She said, Jeff, I don't want to think about it. And I said, do you think thinking about it would help it, make it easier for you if it does happen? Meaning, isn't it easier if you plan than, if you just let it happen? So my question, Gary, you go first on this, is how important, why is the post-apocalypse so scary to people?
Well, it's kind of, it's such an interesting loaded question. It's funny when you were talking about, War of the Worlds, but actually the scenario that keeps playing in my head is I Am Legend, but not even the 3 film version, but the actual, original story by Richard Matheson, which is really just a novella, but it's set here in the Southland, right? It's set here when he was living here out in a little town here near LA called Gardena. And in fact, the Burning Pit, that's, I guess it's not in the Will Smith movie, but in the actual, the one that's closest to the book is actually this crazy one with Vincent Price. And there's a Burning Pit. Yeah. And in the book, the Burning Pit is in Compton. And anyway, so that one, it always, I don't know, for some reason, it always comes through my head in terms of apocalyptic stories because, he for some reason, he has the immunity, right? And he's like, as far as he knows, until toward the end, he thinks he's the only one that has survived this kind of weird sort of zombie plague, right? But every night, his next door neighbor and fellow zombies surround his house, telling him, trying to get him to come out, but he's, hung up garlic and this and that, the age old totems to keep the vampires out. But I guess the answer to the question then is, I think on one hand, it's just sort of like, it is kind of like crime fiction in the sense that we can go down these paths of these apocalyptic stories, or I guess, what was it? What's the movie? Contagion, I guess, got to be viewed a lot lately, in Hot Zone, all these movies about plagues, because on one hand, we think at the end of these movies, no matter how bad it gets, there's a certain return to normalcy. And I think partly that's what's driving us now, right? Part of our hope is that we return to some kind of normalcy. But really, to your point, man, that, here we have this White House that's, where science is anathema, where it's amazing to me that Fauci has managed to last as long as he has, since from Reagan era and AIDS till now. But the idea that we always think that we can return to something that's going to be normal. But you're right. The idea that I think is we're all sort of touching on is, the new normal may be very different than what we had before.
Okay. The other thing I say, Do you think that's why people are scared of it, because they're scared of change?
Well, no, I think we're scared of it because you can't see it, right?
Right.
I mean,
The unknown.
yeah, it's the unknown. To a la War of the Worlds, right? It's the germs that kill the Martian invaders, right? The germs that we had grown accustomed to over eons and eons of evolution. Now, who's to say, if humanity survives after all this, the thing that the people that emerge from all that won't have built up some immunities to what we are now, plagued with, what we are now faced with. But yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. The biggest thing is that you can't see it, and therefore you're not quite sure how to prevent it. You're not quite sure how to be prepared for it. Although maybe to the Afro survivalist point is that, frankly, if you're out away from people, that clearly is one step in terms of really getting yourself safe.
Okay. Afrovivalist, how do you feel? Why is the post-apocalypse so scary to people? Uh-oh, we lost her in the bunker?
Yeah.
All right. Michael, let's see. Michael, you ready? Because I think her screen.
Yeah, I am. And it's funny that we did skip her, because I think one of the things that makes it frightening is that people.
Uh-oh.
Oh, she's talking. Hold on.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
We can't hear you. Yeah, now we can.
You can not? Okay.
Now we can.
So
Yes.
I hear you.
I say, okay, great. So my answer to your question here, I want to have they may be a hassle to others. So yeah, it's a situation that it scares people know where to start, I guess, or they just don't want to believe that something like this will happen. Did you guys get me? Because I just went black for a second.
We heard the second part. We didn't hear the beginning part. But we did hear that we did hear most of it. I think you just cut out in the beginning. But I understand what you're saying. Okay, you hear me?
Was just ready for what's to come. It was just getting us ready, so letting people see where we may fit in their brain and don't want to really face to the reality.
Okay. Michael, I think I forgot to say earlier, I'm glad your wife is feeling better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where are my manners on the video?
Well, I think this thing, just having heard the Afrovivalist and what she's doing, I think part of the reason that people are so scared is that they are not prepared. Because when you think of it, if you're in a part of the world like, say, South Florida, and you've been living there for years, and there's a certain routine, you know that the hurricanes are going to come through. It's hurricane season, and you're mentally prepared, and you've got your pack of stuff ready. And in different parts of the country, it's different things. Like they'll have tornado drills. Even the child, there could be a fire. And I think if both the average person and the authorities were more prepared, there'd be less a sense of terror, because the terror is on the unknown. Whereas if you do the Boy Scout thing, and when you go into the crowded theater, you know where the exits are, you don't have that panic. But I think, in addition to the fear of the apocalypse and the post-apocalyptic period, I think that there's a part of us that looks forward to it. And what I mean by this is, if you see a movie like The Walking Dead, ultimately where the series moves toward is the post-apocalyptic society. And I think there might be part of us that kind of realizes that there's a lot that's unjust and wrong in the society that exists, and some that things being wiped out and starting fresh might not be totally bad. And when you think about it, like in certain groups, cultures, the apocalypse is not the end of the universe; it's the end of a cycle, and then renewal will come from after that.
All right. So you're putting a hopeful spin on this. You know, I would like to be alive during the renewal and not be what do you call it? Mulch. Because
the sacrifice has to be made, Jeff. I mean,
I don't want to be I'm not one of those who was the congressman or whoever said some older people are just gonna have to sacrifice themselves.
That's right. Well, he put himself in there too now, so okay. You got to give him that. You got to give him that. Yeah.
They're gonna have to just take an L for global warming.
That's right. That's right.
But did he give an age cutout for that? Because I'm underneath this.
Hey, forget the age police like in Logan's Run.
That's right.
The virus takes care of everyone. I don't think I've ever read a book with an age virus. Like after a certain age, you get a cutoff.
Yeah.
So Jessica, bring us home. You writing in the post-apocalypse is fun. People got magic. You got going on. I'm like, shoot, if I get mutated and come up with genetic powers, I might want to be in the post-apocalypse. So tell me, why is people so scared? They must never read one of your books.
If they read one of my books, they would be scared because humans do not survive it. So that's an issue. But I think that people are scared because of that. They don't know that they will survive it. I think that's the fear. I mean, we have like me and my friends and my brothers, we always like speculate and talk about like our zombie team, if the zombie apocalypse come. Like I've heard that so many times. But at the end of the day, if the zombies came, I'm like 87% sure I'm not gonna make it. Like that's the fear. Like I know what the movie said I should do, but I don't know if that's really gonna work out in my favor. So I think that that's the fear. And then in my world, in dystopian and magical storylines, the solution is always so far in the future. Like you have to wait for some girl to be born by some preordained notion, and she's the one who fixes it. By then, we're all gone. Like that, we're not even here for when it gets pretty again.
Right.
So I think that is like, I don't want to think about it because I'm not going to be here for it anyway. Like if the happens, most of us are out of here. So I think that is, kind of why people are just like, I don't really want to think about it. But what Michael said, like the hope for something better in my series, the hope is that, they, even though it's new reign by, magical powers, they're controlling everything. Their hope was to build this better society and have a better structure and have more equality. But then they start to find out that those same issues that they were seeing when humans ran the earth, are still there. So it's like we were hopeful that we could do something better, but now we're finding out that, we're still flawed in some way. So I think the hope of like, okay, it sucks now, the world is ending, but maybe we can rebuild is something that is definitely there. I thought about when Gary was talking about that movie Signs, where it was like the bacteria in the water, and they like threw some water on the alien, and it like died. And it was like, I think we're all waiting for our cup of water to show up so we could go, oh, Corona's gone. We're all hoping for that cup of water.
I think you threw in the bacteria thing. That makes a hell of a lot more sense than it just being water, which is what I.
Yeah, I may have made. I'm a writer, creative.
That was good. Better. That was good editing. Uh-oh.
Oh,
We're all here.
Okay.
no, Afro Vivalist got.
Okay. So I forgot to give shout outs. We have some people in watching us. Keith Wade, Kalia, Ed, my wife Nivea, and watching. So
All right.
let
I'll
me
watch my language.
Okay. And Nivea made the comment, unknown is very challenging, both emotionally and physically. And Maria, I guess, agreed with her and said, fear of the unknown.
Yep.
I'm going to roll my answer and my comment into the next question. Gosh, anybody want to take next question on first? I was going to have the Afro Vivalist, but all right, Mike, I'm going to start with you again, and then Gary, and then Jessica, but you may not be last because the Afro Vivalist may come in next. So I think it is scary, but I also was going to say this other thing. I think people are addicted to the luxuries of this world, and then there's no part of the post-apocalypse in any story that y'all mentioned where you still have air conditioning, Escalades, and McDonald's. So I think what this apocalypse or this event, whatever we're experiencing, has taught us is a new terminology called essential businesses. Never heard that before. I don't even remember anybody having a story where there was a thing called essential businesses. I thought I was essential. I provide to people. I left a career in teaching to become a full-time writer, and now I'm not essential. The comic book stores are closing up.
I know. I was crying.
Oh, so yeah, it caught me off guard. And I think it caught a lot of people off guard because even law firms are not essential. Okay. Yeah. And people paid a lot of money to go to law school, right? I was preparing my son to, go into a job that the computers won't be able to take over.
That's it, baby.
Right? That's what good parenting was.
That's right.
We might want to say, make sure you can do something that's essential.
like work in a grocery store.
Right. Driving a truck right now is essential.
Yeah.
And you pay gas. Walmart needs their food. Right. Workers, guess what, guys? You're essential. So the question I had, and it's kind of where we are right now, right? Maria said Target. Yes, Target is essential.
Yep.
What are some of the things? Because Michael, you said a little bit of it, and I know Afro Vivalist, she probably will have a list of things. I know I have a list that I've taken from my reading of Survivor magazine, of things that I put together in my book. But Michael, you talked a little bit about some of the things that people can do to be prepared, and kind of roll that into like, when do we move to the bunker, right? That sounds crazy, all right. But I'm out there, Gary. I'm one of the contributors that didn't make the cut that I'm writing, right? So I was telling my wife that when they start fighting, we're gonna have to probably when the banks collapse, when the money lines, the stimulus checks start being printed up, fake money, just to keep the economy going. When people start fighting on those lines, you might want to move up into the woods, like my movie, Gary, Children of Men. Remember Children of Men?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude lived in the woods and he hid off the road, and every time he drove in, he closed up the bushes so people wouldn't see where he lived. So that's kind of intermediate bunker building, where you might live in the back part of your house, in a basement, but nobody in the hood knows you living in there. And then you go Farnham Freehold, right? and you wait it out. But while chaos is breaking out, today with your gun, you go to the grocery store, and then you go back in your bunker.
Yeah.
It's real wild. You'd be like, we're in the bunker for like a year. So What are some of the things that you can do, Mike? You suggest to people, probably on a serious note, you know what I'm saying? And then when do you think we should, maybe not this particular apocalypse, but when would be a sign for you to leave and take your kids and say, honey, we're going on a boat and we're going to just find land?
Well, that has to be pretty extreme, and I have it, or I guess you call it some kind of bag. I know we literally have a duffel bag filled with stuff. It has batteries, it has an axe, it has those flashlights that have, 1,400 lumens. I mean, it can.
There you go.
A generator, a radio that you crank up. So we have that bag ready to go and throw into the back of the SUV and go if we really needed to. And we have life jackets. I mean, we're prepared. I think we were prepared really for a hurricane.
Yeah.
Where we put it together. So I think that kind of stuff is good for people to always have, to be ready to go, as well as some cash. But I would be hesitant to head out into, say, the hinterlands or the woods, unless I really was a person trained to live that way. Because if you're not, then you're just hungry and wet and outside.
That's it.
And now there may be, human predators if things have gone really downhill. But I like more that idea of taking the environment you're in and bunkerizing that, if you will. So our house, we have a backyard, and in that backyard, we have in the past, over the summer, raised our own vegetables. We taught the children how to do it, so they know how to raise their own squash and tomatoes and sweet potato and stuff you could really live on. And if it came to that as well, I mean, my son's pretty good at catching animals, and it wouldn't be hard for him to make a trap for all these squirrels that get back there. And then, of course, just on our wall, there are coyotes sometimes
There you go.
around.
There
And I think if things really went bad, you
you
see
go.
more coyotes. And both of my girls are really good archers. So, my
That's
son,
excellent.
I explained this to him, and my son, I'm not eating a dog,
That's excellent.
Right.
but in any way, I think if you could find a way to, if you board up certain windows, turn the environment, figure out how you can survive in the environment you're in and familiar with already to some degree, you're better off.
All right. Gary, have you even tried eating a squirrel just to deep fried? Or are you going to boil it? What you going to do?
Listen, my great aunt, Josephine, down on the farm in Shelby, next door to Clarksdale in the Delta in Mississippi, when I was a teenager, when I went down to stay with her for a while, I've had squirrel. I mean, you get used to it. It's all right. But now, having said that, and I do agree with Michael to the extent, as I said, I live in earthquake country, so we have an earthquake kit in the sense of the flashlight. I got a hand crank radio. I've got a gun, but I've always had a gun. And I've got, we got certain things that we just know we're going to need because I've lived through several bad quakes in Los Angeles, and have seen what happens. But really, I'm also with Jessica in the end. Look, man, if it really is the end, I'm done. Because I'm not going to the country. God made liquor stores and supermarkets for people like me. I'm toast, baby. I understand that. You know what I mean? I've come to accept that because I won't make it. What is it? What is that show? What is it called? Is it three fat guys naked and afraid? It was one of those shows, right, where you like a semi thing where you put these cats out in the wild. And the city boys, and they like fall apart, man. They're crying and bawling on themselves. That'd be me, man. I was like, I can't, no, man. Listen, man. When I've gone back to New York and Chicago in the winter, it's like, oh my God, how do people stand it back? I can't take that. How am I going to take living out in the wild? Are you crazy? Oh no. So the good news is I've come to accept my fate now. Now, protecting my beautiful grandson, stuff like that. Yes. Now, I'm gonna take as many people with me as I can, when it comes to that, because I agree too, man. It's the human predators that in the end you're gonna have to really worry about. But on the real, so I think you're right. I think you can be as prepared as you can possibly be, but I don't go overboard about it. And I think about things like, I'm a working class guy, man. And I think about things more like, robots robot trucks are coming, right, to take truckers' jobs. The port, we got one of the busiest ports here, the LA, Los Angeles port, and robots are taking those jobs. And so the real world, technology marches on. All this stuff is coming to displace the workers. And I heard a statistic the other day, something about, is this true? Like 24% of workers now in the U.S. are considered part of the gig economy, and of course they're getting hit hard, and you're working without benefits, you're working without overtime pay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, this is the realities we're facing. This is the slow, steady assault that is happening to us every day.
All right, Jessica. Now you're not last. She called. Got a nice picture.
Yeah.
So that looks good. You look better now. All right. Jessica, what do you think? What you have suggestions? I know you are not a hermit, but you cool with being on the inside. How are you making it inside the cage?
I'm like I said, we're good. My home, we have external battery packs galore. My mom always told me I was crazy for buying so many, but now we're good. The power go off. We have a small generator here that we can plug devices in if we need to. If we got to go on a run, I have a compressor, an air compressor to fill the tire if we need to. If we get and my grandfather taught me how to change some tires and do some basic maintenance and get us going again. So I'm good. My son is not as helpful as Michael's kids sound. I might need to work on that, get him a bow and arrow or something so we can eat. But I think that, for the most part, we're good. I've honestly just been stocking up more so on like water filters, and they have these like little packs you can get with slices of soap in them, and they dissolve and you use them. So stuff like that, I am kind of stocking up more on. And not even just for apocalypse, but like my son will have those with him forever now. Like wherever you go, this is soap in your pocket to make sure you're washing your hands. But I don't know. I think that I'm along with Gary. I don't know how quickly I would be to go and dive into somebody's bunker. I might just kind of hang out here and see what's up. My brothers would probably tie me up and be like, "We gotta go, like get in this car." I can see that. I'm like, well, we could just stay here and see. I like AC. I like internet. Like it might come back. Give us a chance. So no, but my brothers are the ones who I think would be the most prepared. The oldest is like, super guy. He's traveling all over the world, climbing mountains and stuff. Oh, wow. So if anything, I'm going to call him up and say, okay, what's our plan? You let me know and I'm going to follow suit.
Wow. I laugh at your preparation, but my question would be, how much toilet paper are you going to need in your preparation?
I don't know about anybody else, but my grandmother always taught me to get plenty of toilet paper. Like you don't get two little rolls and call it a day. Like so when people started going crazy, and it was crazy because right before the toilet paper went out, I accidentally ordered a case of toilet paper. And me and my mom are laughing like, what are we ever gonna do with all this toilet paper? It's like 70 rolls that came, and the guy comes to my door like, are you guys crazy? Like, why are you ordering this? And I'm looking like, are you at the right location? I did not order this. So we're laughing. I gave some to my mom, and then like the next week they're like, all the toilet paper is sold out, and we're like, well, darn. I'm glad I made that little error. We're good for a while.
You are a futurist. So Afrovivalist, before you go, all right, let me just say now all of the little bubblegum comments have already been made. Now we get to hear from the big kahuna, because I'm like you, Jessica. I talk about survivalists, and one of the main things a lot of them, especially the white people, have is a gun, right? And I don't even have a gun yet. After this, I thought, you know what? I may not go to a bunker. Gary, is like 10 hours out of Florida into some real country, Alabama area, and I may not make it, right? We better off getting on a boat and going to the Caribbean.
There you go.
But I may hunker down, and if I do hunker down, I may need to get a gun just for urban survival.
Yeah.
And then I may get a water filter. And that's something that I was going to get earlier. There's a thing called the Life Straw. And that's a really good water filter. On my Harlem Shake page, before I started posting every conspiracy theory out there, Michael, I posted a lot of, survivalist information. And I'm going to go back to that because I think people are going to start at least making a bug out bag and an evacuation plan or something, some type of strategy. But I also think, Jessica, there is going to be part of history, and maybe in Gary or Michael's story, called the Great Toilet Paper Sale. And that's going to happen in August 2020. After this is over, people are going to be like, I'm selling all of this stuff. Okay, so that's the jokes out the way. You got the floor, Afrovivalist. What are some of the practical things? Maybe you can give us a list of top 5 things. And I also say you do have a website, so I know you have information on there. I had your brochure, so that is another thing that you have. But what's like some of the top 5 important things? And you've already moved to the bunker, so you can skip that question because we know why you moved there. But yeah, what's top 5 things that people can do? We need to hear you.
Say it.
Nope, still can't.
She was about to save us.
I know. Maybe she cut the picture. Maybe the audio would come in because sometimes that, you know what I mean, that takes up so much bandwidth. I don't know. The mic says muted on the screen.
So is she muted her mic by accident?
Maybe she did it by accident.
No.
Yeah.
Now, still can't.
Are you using an earpiece? Sometimes that does it.
Yeah.
It sounds like she hears us. If
I
you
think
hear us, nod.
Yeah.
Okay, now hit the mic on the screen. Okay.
Oh no.
No, probably the most important person.
Exactly.
Anybody read lips?
Nope.
Nope. Yet another skill to learn. Well, there you go.
Right. Hey, Gary, did you see those face masks with the clear piece in the front? For people that have to read lips.
Oh, I see. All right, very good.
Yeah, they have face masks because otherwise they're living in a muted world.
There you go.
Everybody's mouth is covered.
Oh my goodness.
Soon as Afrovivalist,
she hear it?
She's gonna call. She's probably gonna call back.
Yeah, she's gonna call back.
Guys, I have really one more question because we're at an hour.
Yeah.
Right? And I promise an hour, but I have one more question. Before I go to the question, I was supposed to do this 30 minutes ago. I do have a sponsor, so I'm just going to give time. The sponsor this time is actually my Kickstarter, so I'm just going to talk about it for a second. I'm doing a book called not the Harlem Shake. I'm doing a book called The Horror Streets 2020, and I have 2 stories in there, and I think I'm at like $530. I'm trying to get to $1,200. Horror Streets explores the fears of urban Black people. One is driving through a white neighborhood, and another one is retaliation for some of the people that desecrate Black graves like Emmett Till. So you'll find information. I'll put the Kickstarter link up there. And that's the commercial. But normally when I do have somebody else that has contributed, I talk a little longer. But Afrovivalist, you still say mute on there. Let me hear can we hear you?
Can you hear me?
There
There it goes.
I know Gary's
Okay,
happy.
good. So give me the question again, please. I'm sorry. What items you need? You think I need?
Yeah. Give us your top 5 practical things that people can do, probably addressing this particular apocalypse. Okay, so hit us
So
with your
during the
top five.
coronavirus,
Yeah,
fortunately, you know, you still have your electricity and everything. So I would still say stock up for the just in case. So still go ahead and stock up on your water because that's always important. Water is life. You only last 3 days without it. And then start thinking about getting some food, the dried foods. You don't want to get too much of the cans because if you have to bug out of your location and it's got to be on your back, you are going to hate yourself. So if you go out and buy freeze dried and dehydrated foods, then that's a better route. And a pound only, you know, of dehydrated food is like ounces. So once you get it dehydrated, you can pack that in there. Also, the Thrive Life, not the Thrive Life, the Life Straw. Make
Right.
sure that you go out and get a couple of Life Straws, one for every person, because that's about what, almost 1,000 gallons, I think. I'm not sure what the capacity of it is, but it's a lot. And then think about your supplies, especially during the coronavirus. You know, think about having some teas and some good herbs to go along with you in your food, and start eating a little bit healthier. If you smoke, try to stop smoking. It's been a hard one for me. And then and then just get out there and just exercise. Stay away from people as much as you can, and everyone will be able to get past this virus as long as they're staying at home. And make sure that you have your wash stations. Like here on the compound, anyone who comes from the store or from the outside, they literally are stopped in their car, and we wipe down the handles of their car. We wipe from the outside. We wipe the inside of their cars. We have them wipe down their hands. And then any items that they're bringing in is also wiped down before they even get to the porch. And then from the porch, they have to wipe again because they're touching the doorknobs. And so the doorknobs have to be cleaned. And they pretty much has to strip down to, you know, down to their socks, because they're saying this virus can stay on your shoes and on your clothes. So they pretty much get down to their skivvies almost.
Wow.
all right.
So-
You present a couple of unique questions. I don't know if anybody else has a question that they may want to ask you or anybody else on the panel. And I forgot to do that, but you know, the floor has always been open. But my question for survivalists is, how long are you prepared to stay in your bunker, or how long does your supplies last? I know, you know, it comes down to eating turtles and growing your food later on, but the regular supplies, how long are you prepared for, and how long have you been there?
Well, I have been here for almost 3 weeks, and I would be a fool to tell you how much food I have. So I'm not going to do that.
Okay. I didn't ask the
I'm not going to
location.
have a whole bunch of people trying to track me down to get my
Right.
food.
There you go. That's
To
it.
put it this way, I have been preparing for almost 9 years. So have that just blow your mind.
There you go.
We can take care of ourselves out here. We do have we're still in the 1 digits of people on the compound, so we haven't gone into the like 10 or any of that, or 10 or 12, 15 people. That's just too big. We don't want it to be that big. Those who are not out here, it's too late. They cannot come. Unfortunately, one of those people is my daughter. So that's really hard for me because she's in the city and she's working at the grocery stores, and we have an elderly out here, and everyone here is pretty much okay and well. So it's a tough decision to make, but you know, I had to leave my daughter behind. But I'm with my grandson and the rest of the family. So, you know, it was a tough one. She didn't want to come out anyway, if I can say that. So, you know.
She'd have been dragged like
She is
Jessica.
not her mother's child. She is not an
Okay. All right.
survivalist.
Well, that's your side of the story. All right.
So, don't worry, you got a legacy in the grandson. Mike,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
talked about what kind of caused you to go your bunker. What would be a sign for you to release yourself and open yourself up and leave your bunker?
Well, I mean, in this case, I think that there has to be a point at which it's kind of be publicly known that this thing is tapered off and that there are no new cases, which China, I mean, China is a pretty big country, and they say that they, I think it was yesterday, was the first day they said that they had no new cases, which, you know, could indicate that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Of course, Chinese can't entirely be trusted, but that's what I'd be looking for, like numbers really going down.
Okay. Anybody else? Afrovivalists, when you gonna come out your bunker? What are you looking? What signs are you looking for to come out?
So I will not return to the city until I know for sure that this virus is contained and that we have a vaccine for it. We are prepared to leave this spot that we're at to go to the next location if it is has to be an option. So not until the virus is gone.
Okay.
You know,
So guys,
go ahead. So I was going to say I am blessed enough to be able to work from home. So that is a bonus at this location, but it's not guaranteed at the next location. So we'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that the vaccine will come along and sooner than later.
Okay. So my last question for each person to answer, and I want to thank you all for being guests, but this ain't the end, is out of all of the movies, books, comic books, which future or which we kind of talked a little bit about the I Am Legend and Omega Man, but which one do you think kind of puts us in the right place for where we are right now? Gary, you can go first.
Well, yeah, I'd mentioned I Am Legend, but that's such a weird, singular sort of thing. Except, of course, toward the end, then he figures or he finds out that there's others, who have survived. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is interesting to contemplate. I mean, and it might very well be. It might be one of those kind of. I was thinking, I guess, of Asimov, maybe, where that whole notion of we or the species or what the part of the human chain that we occupy now might very well die off, and it might very well be that we have to what emerges from this will, maybe they look like us, maybe they don't look like us, and maybe they'll have adapted, because not only do we have to think about the coronavirus and the virus after that, we got to think about climate change. We have to think about the robots, all these things that are really happening, right? And the water and the food that we eat, et cetera. So it very well be that, the way we look now and what we exist now might very well die out, might very well be that we get replaced by something different, or, maybe the sun finally flares up and it's all over anyway.
Okay. Afrovivalists, why don't you take that on? What's a book or a movie or something that you read that you can hip us all to? You've been thinking about this for years, so let me hear what you got.
The book 1 Second After, or 1 Second Later, or that one. I just got it, but I had listened to it on a podcast that a gentleman was reading, and he was reading it on his podcast, and that really came to light to me. And I think it's called The Second After, and it goes through the life of a possible shutdown, and people had to get out. They have to make the choice of what to do, to stay or to go. So that would be my choice if I got the book right, but I'm gonna go read it.
Okay.
Now that I've listened to it, I think it's a good one to go check out.
Okay. Jessica, what you got?
So I've picked up quite a bit of post-apocalyptic pieces that are closer to real world scenarios. In the past, I've only read like magical you know, super extreme futures, but nothing that even aligns with what we're going through. It's so far away from my area of expertise right now. But I feel like from what I have read, none of them, no matter how extreme or not they are, really has the feel of what we're going through right now. Because as Gary said, there are so many elements outside of this, in this, you know, the virus that we have to be, you know, mindful of. Like the climate has not stopped shifting drastically into the wrong direction. You know, that's a huge thing that we need to be aware of. So I know that right now, COVID is like what we're thinking of, but I feel like for a while we've been in a pandemic and we've just been ignoring it. And that is what I think is setting home with me now, is that this is so like in our face because people are actually dying from it. But like our world has been dying for quite some time. And we're all just like, nah, doesn't affect me. I'll be gone before that happens. And now it's like, well, maybe not. Maybe I will be here when it all goes, you know, left, because a lot of people are like, this virus is the world getting rid of its parasite and we're the parasites. And it's like, okay, maybe. So I have picked up quite a few books about something closer to what is happening now that I plan on kind of diving into.
Okay. All right, Michael, here's your shot. You're closing it out.
I'm going to put a lighter note on this, and my recommendation for this night's viewing is something that I think makes more of how I feel right now. Really, is the movie This Is the End, in which Seth Rogen and James Franco playing themselves are in James Franco's house during the apocalypse. And it's sort of a siege scenario, and they're just trying to stay sane while this whole thing is going on. And so it's a very dark comedy. But one of the points it has ultimately is something that kind of gets lost in this situation, where people are just thinking about their own survival, even though they may not really be in too much of a life or death situation, really, is how we treat each other. That comes to be the ultimate thing of who is judged at the end of what is, in the case of that movie, the apocalypse.
I remember when I met the Afrovivalists. She had a lady that was in her booth with her, and I can't remember the lady's name, a white lady.
Angela.
Yes, Angela. And this comment that I made to her is what got her to buy my book, right? And you always remember those, right, Gary? Those are like money comments, right? But I wasn't even trying to sell the book, right? I just said, you know, living in Miami, I've seen enough post-apocalyptic events to not be fully scared of it, because I've seen people show themselves as the best of humanity and not be that go out and kill people. Although I know the Afrovivalists said there's people out there with bunkers that's trained in the military, and those are the people you got to be scared about it. But based in the immediate post-apocalyptic experience, people are going to die sitting next to each other rather than die eating each other. So I don't think that is ultimately the scary part. But I will say this, it is a slow grind. The post-apocalypse is boring to a person that likes people like me, okay? So I'm not going to suggest The Road, because that was boring to me. I'm going to go with a comic book for my suggestion and say, God, my man just hit my Facebook page. I can't remember the illustrator, but Brian Wood is the writer, and the comic book is DMZ.
DMZ, yeah. That's by the way, they're probably making a series of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So in the DMZ, it is not a what do you call it? Sean Martinborough.
Yeah.
Right, is the illustrator. And it's not necessarily a disease, but a political uprising
Yeah, it's just a sort of a breakdown of society. Yeah.
Right. And Ava DuVernay is supposed to be doing the
That's right. That's right.
the movie version for Netflix. But I think that is kind of where we are. 'Cause I almost think we're sort of past Contagion right now. So in ways we're past it a little bit. But so that's the one that I would suggest. DMZ with Brian Wood writing and Sean Martinborough as illustrator. So anyway, guys, I want to thank you. We went an hour and 20 minutes. We went all the way out to the bunker. We got and all the other urban bunkers, you know, that we're in. I wish you all the best of luck, Gary and Michael. Please send me links. I got them from Jessica. I got the Afrovivalist.
Yep.
So thank you very much. She's probably conserving her battery.
Thanks for having us, Jeff. This was great.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Very
And
good.
guys, if you do do one of your own panels, or if you want to do this again, I have a couple of topics that I was thinking about doing, but I'm still open for more. And I'm promoting this because I like going to comic book conventions and book fairs and science fiction things because of the discourse.
Yeah.
And on my block, in my quarantine environment, there aren't Michaels and Jessicas and Garys. So I like to talk to you guys and get my mind stimulated. So again, this is a free platform. As you can see, we're an hour and 20 minutes. Give me until tomorrow afternoon. I'll have the videotape up on my YouTube page, and I'll inbox you the link for it.
Right on.
Great.
All right.
Thank
Right,
you.
y'all.
Very much. Hey, Gary, I want to talk to you about that last book too. All right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.